and welcome to the next episode of our Java tutorial. And today everything is all about loops. So we make a new class on the first step with the name loops, or Schleifen in German. Okay, loops are very important when you have some repetitions in your code, and if you have to repeat it by hand, it will be very hard, and so I want to show you how to use it because they are very useful, and I only can recommend that you use it. And now I want to show you how hard it can be to make code that is very unelegant, made by your hand, and you will see what I mean. So let's make now an output from 1 up to 10. So we use system out like always, and we set the first counter to 1 and use copy and paste 10 times, and I change now the number from 1 to 10. You see, 1 by 1, 4, 3, 2. Okay, now execute it, and you see here in the shell in the console an output from 1 up to 10. Okay, no surprise. Okay, that was easy. You see, I just was maybe a little bit not necessary, but what's if you want to have now an output from 1 up to 100 or 2000? You will see this will be very hard and the code will be very long, like a spaghetti code. And so let's use loops. I want to show you now the first loop. It's the while loop, and a while loop looks like this: while, then brackets, and inside of these brackets we have the condition, and in the block between the other brackets we have the command that is executed if our condition is completely fulfilled. Like here I set it to true. So how can we count up to 10? At first let's delete all the system outs, put this in the bracket, and make a new variable. This variable is an integer variable. It's called counter, and it starts with 0. And we don't have 1 as an output, but we have counter. And okay, now you can say, but why? Counter is 0, so we don't have any progression. So before this we have make a new line, and we set it to counter equals counter plus 1. So in every iteration of this loop, it's called iteration, counter starts with 0, but then plus 1 is added. So after every iteration, counter increases by 1. And now we have this loop would now go on forever because it's always true. So it would add plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So we have to make a break. And for this break we use counter smaller than 10. So if this condition is fulfilled, it works, but after it's maybe 11 or 12, whatever, the while loop is no longer executed and it stops. And you see here when I run it, I have done it already, you see here it starts by 0 and ends by 10. And I want to show you now, we want to take now a deeper look in this, what really happens in this loop. So we make here with the right click, make a toggle breakpoint in the code here at the border of the editor, and now we go to the bug sign. Just go here, remember my decision, go to yes, and now you see we have now a complete other look in this program, and the program jumps now up to this breakpoint and only goes to this breakpoint. So the code is only executed until this, and with these small button you can go step by step through our code. So we are now on the next line, and you see counter is now set plus 1. Then we have the output. Now let's go to the next step. We go to our to our loop. It's checked, counter is okay, it's still lower than 10, then plus 1, system out, and the next step it's again checked, and so on and so on and so on. So I go on, you see below in the shell it always increases by 1, but then we reach 10. Now the counter checks, the while loop checks if it's smaller than 10. No, it isn't. It is 10. So it ends, and you see here the program ends. Now let's go back to Java. We don't need this anymore, this tab. So we are back to our code. So now you learned everything about the while loop and the debugger also. And I want to show you two other kinds of loops. But at first, to make it to increase the readability, let's make a new method where we put the loop in it. And so write static void while loop brackets. Now the brackets for the block, and copy all this and paste it, cut it and paste it into our method. So innerhalb the main method we have to declare it, the function, the method. So I use Control Enter for the autocomplete, and now we have our method while loop. And you see, if I execute it, if I click on run, we see below in the shell it works. Now let's play a little bit around, set the counter to 9, and we see we only have one iteration because it's already 9, so it's just the next step, it goes to 10. And if we put it to 10, you see nothing should happen because it's already 10, so our while loop doesn't work. But maybe it's important for your code, I don't know what you write, that the loop has to work. It's a must. So we can use another type, the so-called do while loop. So let's make at first a new method that we call do while loop. Like always with the brackets, you know this, the block. And the structure is, at first we write the keyword do, then some brackets, and after these brackets our while. So don't write it together, do while. And like always, like in the last time, after the while we have normal brackets, and in this the condition is put in. So I set it here to true, just for the example. And I will show you now that whether what's the condition, the loop is at least executed at least one time, no matter what the condition is. So I set the counter here to 0, and I write here counter equals counter plus 1, so it's increased all the time, and then system out counter, so we have the number of that. Okay, so in the next step I will remove the true, and I will write counter smaller than 10. So like in the last example, and I declare the function here in our main method. I comment this out, we don't need this, and click on run. And you know, like the last time, we have numbers from 0 up to 10. Now let's change it to 9. And then, okay, it's like in the last time, we have 10 as an output. And now set it to 10. And even though the counter already reached 10, we have as an output 11, because the do forces the while loop by force that it has to run at least one time. So now you know everything about the while loops and the do while loops. And now comes one of the most important loops, and it's the for loop. So there we use another method. You see, I made the other one smaller, so it's way better regarding the readability. So now we start with the keyword for, then comes our counter, int counter equals 0, then a semicolon, then comes our condition, so counter smaller than 10, and after this, after the semicolon, comes our command. What happens if the command is if the condition is fulfilled, and it's counter equals counter plus 1. So what we need now is the output, and this is here system out counter, like in the last time. So we have here our variable, our counter variable, then our condition, and then in the end our command. So let's use it here in the main method for loop, and now click on run, and let's look in the shell what happens. You see it runs, but the last number is not 10, it's a 9. And the reason is we start with 0, and okay, so let's change it now to 1. Okay, even though it ends with 9. Okay, what's the reason for this? Here we see how a for loop works, and it's different to the others. 10 is not reached because the operation is only executed after the condition is checked. So at first it checks the condition and then it executes it. So we have to set it here to 11, that we reach 10 in this loop. Or of course we can use the command, the operation smaller or equal. Then it works also because smaller or equal. Yes. Okay, so now you learned everything about the 3 types of loops, and I really can recommend that you use it, and because they are very important and can structure your code very good. So thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.